Hello and welcome to the benchmark interim results. We are joined today by Trond Williksen, the CEO, and Septima Maguire, CFO, who will talk us through the presentation. The presentation is being recorded and there will be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, but please feel free to submit your questions as we go through the presentation. In the meantime, over to you, Trond.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this interim presentation for financial year 2021 for Benchmark Holdings. As introduced, I'm Trond Williksen, the CEO of Benchmark, and as usual, I'm joined with by our CFO, Septima Maguire, and together we will give you insight into our financial and operational results from the first half and second quarter of the financial year. And at the end, we will also share with you our views on outlooks for the group, as well as do some reflections on the strategic positioning of the group. Starting off with the highlights, page 2. I am pleased to state that the first half of this financial year has been a period with good operational and financial performance, as well as good strategic progress. When we entered into financial year 21, coming out of a very demanding and transformational year with significant restructuring, we had set ourselves clear financial and operational targets as well as strategic priorities. Summarizing what we have achieved in the first half of this financial year, we have reached what we aimed for financially and operationally, and we have had the strategic progress we targeted when entering the year. The financial and operational achievements are, of course, reflected in our financial figures for the first half. We have seen significant growth both in top line and adjusted EBITDA, measured in constant exchange rate by 11% and 13% respectively, and this is what we aimed for. An important driver behind the positive development of the group figures have been a strong performance by our advanced nutrition business area, which have had a rebound in the first part of the year. Market conditions for our advanced nutrition business have partly remained challenging enough, especially in the Americas, but easing in other markets, especially Asia and Europe, and combined with strengthened commercial effort, as well as discipline on the cost side, have enabled us to advance. This has been good news for us, and something that our advanced nutrition business area team has been working very hard to achieve. Our genetics business area had also had a good first half of the year, with financial performance in line with what we as management expected coming into the financial year. These expectations also reflected a shift in order profile of salmon eggs that came through in Q2, as well as less build-up in biological assets. Together with lower proceeds from harvested fish, a secondary income stream from our salmon egg business, these three factors constitute the main elements behind the deviation from the performance seen in Q2 of last financial year. The visibility of the salmon egg business is good in terms of when the egg deliveries are executed throughout the year, and we expect that the performance of our genetics business area will be strong for the year in totality. The financial performance of our animal health business area reflects the commercial activities we have on Salmosan that has been advancing well for the first half of the year, but more so the fact that the majority of the activity in this business area has been directed towards the commercial launch of BMK08 and CleanTreat. This means that we've been mainly in an investment phase in this business area in the first half of the year, as everybody should have expected. Page 3, please. The good news is that we have been advancing well strategically on BMK08 and CleanTreat, which is the strategic priority number 1 for the health business area as well as for the group. After having received a positive opinion on our MRL from the EU back in September last year, this has now been ratified into EU law in April. So we've got the MRL. Another significant milestone in Q2 was the signing of the first commercial contract for the solution in the Norwegian market, where we are launching first, securing commercial activity for the first of the 2 systems we have in our initial plan. Operationally, we have of course been progressing in accordance with our launch plan, and subject to final granting of the Marketing Association and ratification of MRL in Norway, we are well advanced to launch as previously communicated. Besides the strategic progress we have seen in our health business area, we have seen good progress also in other strategic areas. In advanced nutrition, we have really seen the effect of a strengthened commercial focus that has been very much on our agenda. This also includes that we have been taking steps to upskill and adjust the commercial organization to make sure that we are in a position to develop commercially in this business area that still is and will remain a crucial part of Benchmark going forward. In genetics, a main theme in the first part of the year has been to make sure that we position for the potential in the upcoming land-based farming paradigm. We have continued to win selected new clients in this market segment, as well as we are well advanced in expanding our incubation capacity on Iceland to make sure that we have capabilities to meet future demand. It should be underlined, and this is important, that we expect increased demand for salmon genetics from the conventional coastal salmon farming paradigm, as well as the new land-based and ocean-based paradigms that we now see being developed. So we are not betting on one of the production paradigms alone. Rather, we are well positioned to meet demands from all 3 growth vectors with flexibility in our facilities to tailor to the range of needs that will develop over the years to come. Finally, on highlights. First half of financial year 21 has been a period where we've also been focusing on advancing the group as more streamlined and commercial and as one unified Benchmark. This still remains very much on the agenda, as we firmly believe we have commercial potentials to be realized. One of the actions, among several others that we have been focusing on, is to co-locate business activities where that makes sense. The co-location of our business activities within genetics and advanced nutrition in Norway and Chile is part of this effort. It obviously poses an immediate potential to reduce costs, but also potential to utilize resources and competences in a better way across the group, which will benefit both the cost side, but also the value creation side as we move forward. We will, of course, continue our effort to develop the group more aligned, more unified as one Benchmark, and more streamlined. And we will stick to what always has been a center of gravity for Benchmark, sustainability. This is why ESG continues to be a very important focus for us through the positive impact our products and solutions have on the sustainability of aquaculture, our commitment to society, as well as our commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our operations and increase the sustainability in our supply chain. So with these words on the highlights, I will now leave it up to Septima to take you through the financial performance in more granularity. So over to you, Septima.
Thank you, Trond. If we can move to slide number 5, please. Thank you. So we've had a good start to the year, resulting in us delivering group revenue growth of 11% and adjusted EBITDA growth of 13% for the half year. What we feel is a very solid outcome. Gross margin performance at a group level was positively impacted by good nutrition performance, which was partially offset by softening genetic margins in the half year. At an adjusted EBITDA level, the strong nutrition result resulted in adjusted EBITDA of £7.9 million, with core business growth at a constant exchange rate. Now, this growth was offset by currency fluctuations year on year, as the pound has strengthened against our main currencies. From a statutory measure perspective, we continue to move in the right direction towards making the business profit-making, as we post a loss for the period of £3.1 million versus a loss for the same period last year of £13.8 million. Net debt, excluding our operating leases, has increased to 42.5 million as we continue to invest in the business. But we ended the half year with cash of 53.6 million. And we're going to look at these items in more detail later in the presentation. If we move to slide 6. Advanced Nutrition has built on the growth experienced in Q1 to bring it to an overall revenue growth in the half year of 17%. And this has supported growth at an adjusted EBITDA level of 93%. Both are at a constant exchange rate. Growth in the gross margin was delivered by growth in diet sales, which offset the expected margin erosion due to the Artemia strategic price reductions. And growth in these markets was driven by both Europe and Asia, with continued weakness in the Americas impacting sales. The reduction of health products was driven by this weakness in the Americas. Now, turning to the 2020-21 GSL Artemia harvest, this was a normalised harvest of approximately 1,200 metric tonnes. Now, during Q2, as previously noted, we didn't have any payments under the GSL take-or-pay contract, but we expect to pay approximately $6 million in Q3 2021. Adjusted EBITDA for the business area showed a continued improvement due to improved sales volumes and mix, and also continued cost containment, with an increase of 2.8 million to 6.2 million for the half year. We have continued to invest in the production infrastructure in this business area, with total capex of 2.8 million, of which 2 million was to bolster our fire systems in our Thai facility. Moving to slide 7. Genetics grew overall revenue at 3% on a constant exchange rate. And salmon eggs, which are approximately 70% of our revenue in genetics, grew at 5%. But this growth was tempered as the demand profile for eggs has shifted slightly towards H2. And this revenue growth was also offset by lower harvest income and royalties, both of which impact gross margin and adjusted EBITDA. Gross margin excluding our fair value uplifts, we were also impacted in part by a general increase in production costs in Iceland and Norway, and also by the costs associated with the new production facility in Chile as it continues to come online. The drop in adjusted EBITDA, excluding fair value uplift of £2 million, was driven also by the losses made by the joint venture in Norway, as noted last quarter, of £1 million, and also the other factors we previously noted. We have continued our investment in the production facilities in the business area, with total capex of £4.6 million, of which £1.7 million relates to capacity expansion in the incubation facilities in Iceland and our shrimp facility in Fellsmere, both of which continue to budget and to time plan. Moving to slide 8. Health has continued a solid sales performance for Salmosan in H1 versus a strong half year last year, where stockpiling of Salmosan occurred due to COVID concerns. But gross margin grew this year to 26%. Good cost containment in OPEX and R&D, even when building towards the launch of BMK08, has resulted in flat adjusted EBITDA year on year. In the first half of the financial year 21, we've invested 1.9 million in CleanTreat units and BMK08 and have continued to ramp up investment in OPEX to support the launch readiness of this business area. Slide number 9, please. As expected, the ramp up for BMK08 and CleanTreat has increased the overall OPEX spend in health in H1. But this has been offset by reduced spend in genetics and nutrition, leading to an overall reduction in spend of £0.3 million. The year-to-date savings from the cost containment and restructuring programmes so far have resulted in savings of £6.3 million of the promised annualised savings of £10 million. Our R&D, both OPEX and CAPEX for the business overall, have seen a decreased investment by £0.8 million. The largest portion of the genetic spend relates to the continued development of the SPR shrimp and also our breeding nucleus. and health R&D is mainly focused on the continued development of BMK08 and CleanTreat. Slide 10, please. From a cash flow perspective, we've seen good cash generation in the first half of the year of 7.8 million, offset in the main by 7.3 million investment in working capital. The business continues to invest in the growth vectors of the group in the business areas as highlighted area, and this has led to capex of £9 million in the half year. From a financing perspective, I'm delighted to note that we successfully completed the listing of the existing NOK bond on the Oslo Exchange. And with current cash of £51.8 million at the 14th of May and available liquidity of 62.5 million, we're well placed for the future. As always, cash flow continues to be an important focus for the business as we move towards being a cash generative business. Back to you, Trond.
Thank you, Septima. And moving over to outlooks and slide number 12. In general, we foresee that the business will develop according to expectations for the remainder of the year. In advanced nutrition, we have seen a rebound so far in this financial year, and we expect to keep that momentum as we move forward. COVID still poses a significant risk factor in our main markets, and we expect this to stay so for a while. At the same time, we have seen signs of recovery in some markets that we believe will get even more evident as vaccination programs are starting to gain effect and things gradually move back to normal. Combined with our efforts to strengthen our commercial organization and effort, this makes us believe that we will keep the momentum we have seen in the first part of the year in this important business area. In genetics, we have good visibility on schedules for delivery of salmon eggs to the salmon market, which constitutes the backbone of our commercial activity in this business area. This makes us believe that we, for the totality of the year, we will have another good performance in genetics. In health, it is now all about getting ready for the launch of BMK08 and CleanTreat, which we have been working so hard on for many years. We are prepared operationally and commercially, and we will launch in Norway as planned. Timeline now down to one element: to obtain the marketing authorization to get the Norwegian ratification of the MRL that we have been granted in the EU. We are actively working on to get this in place in time, but it still remains subject to the timings of the final steps in the regulatory process. Page 13. A few words on the longer term prospects and perspective of our benchmark. It starts to become well known that the aquaculture industry is an exciting industry. It's supported by strong megatrends as need for sustainable food production to a global population, as well as trends towards search for healthy foods by a growing global middle class. This supports continued strong growth of the aquaculture industry in itself. Like almost any other industry, growth creates sustainability issues, even more so in aquaculture, as this is still a young industry. Focus on these issues is growing as the industry expands, driven by increased attention and interest. The catalyst for a stronger sustainability focus comes from an increased number of sources spanning from regulatory to investors, governmental schemes, new financial schemes, and new enabling technologies. The answer on the sustainability challenges in aquaculture lies in innovation, bringing forward new sustainable solutions. And the opportunity and need for such solutions is growing. So the compounded opportunity created by a fast-growing industry supported by strong megatrends and the accelerated need for sustainable solutions make the opportunity in this industry larger than it appears, and it is certainly bigger than the opportunity derived from the underlying growth of the aquaculture industry in itself. Page 14, please. And it is in this landscape that Benchmark is uniquely positioned. We are not alone in this industry, but from the perspective of opportunity, we are really unique. There are well-positioned companies in the industry within genetics, there are well-positioned companies within feed and nutrition, and there are companies in the industry that are well-positioned within animal health. But there are none that I know of that has the combination that we have in our core, genetics, advanced nutritional health, a combination that fits perfectly with the aims to contribute with solution driving sustainability in aquaculture. In this space, we are unique. And we have a large opportunity if we are able to take it on. And this is what it really comes down to for us as a company long term. We have a lot of opportunity that we intend to take on. But on the way, we will stay disciplined, making sure that we deliver on the short and near-term objectives. We're going to stay focused on core. We're going to stay focused on financial control, and we're going to have our eyes fixed on obtaining sustainable profitability. And with these words, we conclude our presentation and we open up for Q&A.
Thank you to both of you for that. Right, we've got a couple of questions come in. Let's start with one on BMK08 CleanTreat. And the question here, can you be explicit about the stages on the process and the timeline, and do you see any risks to a delay on the launch?
Septima, are you going to take that as a start, and I can fill you in?
Yes. So, as Trond referenced, we have received the EU MRL, which is, and it was ratified into European law. Currently, the Norwegians are working on getting it ratified into Norwegian law. And at the same time, we are working with the Norwegian Medicines Agency to get the marketing authorization. We still, at this point in time, have the ability to meet our Q2 calendar year launch timeline, and we are working to be operationally ready. But as you can guess, every day that passes, that moves us towards that 30th of June deadline is a day that can potentially take us over. But we are looking at it day by day by day. It's not a case that we are expecting, there's an expectation that there's significant slippage in the timeline. So we still have the ability to meet that commercial launch timeline, but every day that passes potentially can bring us past that. But it would be slipping gradually into July rather than a significant slippage.
Thank you. And a follow-up then, what is your current view on growth after launch?
Well, we have done the first sale commercial contract, and that was a milestone for us. And that secures activity for the first system to begin with, and we are actively working now with other customers to make sure that we are also filling the book, building the book when it comes to the second system. There are interest in the market. Absolutely, it's a need for this solution. But we have been very focused on being precise when we are entering the market, starting off with 2 systems. And what we have always said is that we are going to develop with new system as the demand is increasing. We still have the same targets for the market that we have always had. So nothing is changed on that, and we will take that stepwise as the demand is increasing.
And just in terms of to refresh around the fundamentals of that, our target market is Norway, which we believe is a target market of £50 million. And that's part of a global market of £75 million revenue potential. We expect that to service the Norwegian market, it will take us between 4 and 5 CleanTreat units. So the growth potential, even from 2 units for the business as a whole, is significant. We see it as a pivotal point in the cash generation of the business.
Okay, thank you. A couple here, perhaps more on consumer perception of the fish industry, but the film on Netflix, Seaspiracy. A couple of questions here. What are you finding as the impact on the fishing industry, and in particular to Benchmark? It should be good for lice treatment, which is not yet used in Scotland. But how have you seen the involvement there in the salmon and shrimp market?
A few words on the sustainability question of the aquaculture industry, and that we are, working towards that. That's where we are focusing our efforts. I think everybody recognizes that there are sustainability issues in any industry, including the aquaculture industry. And the good thing is that, what I stated also very clearly in my introduction, is that the good thing about Benchmark is that we are here to help solving those. We are here to help solving those issues. And the contribution we will make when we are coming out with BMK08 and CleanTreat in order to solve one of the biggest sustainability issues it has to do with sea lice is one example of that. But if you look at the total value proposition we do both on genetics, advanced nutrition and health, it will be in for the purpose of solving the sustainability issues. So that's our role into this industry, to point that out very, 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 very clearly. I'm not sure, Hannah, if I got the second part of your question, but that was how do we expect this to be to play out for the demand of in the shrimp industry and the salmon industry. The salmon industry has had a steady, and the shrimp industry has had a steady growth in demand over many, many years, and there is a need for healthy sources of sustainable food to the world. We expect that will continue, but an important part of that journey is to make sure that the industry is solving its sustainability issues as it develops, and that's the whole purpose behind Benchmark, to state that very clearly.
Good, thank you for clearing that up. Another one here. Can you say when you plan to be cash flow positive and which quarter of which year?
We've always historically stated that we are working towards being cash generative, which means cash positive, in FY23. I'm not going to pin it down to a specific quarter because the objective is to be cash flow positive, full stop. But as we all know, ebbs and flows quarter to quarter happen all the time in business, particularly with seasonal businesses. But that is the stated objective, and it's not changed since we started talking to it 18 months ago.
Good, and probably worth highlighting that we will be publishing an updated note in the next few days. Another one for you, Septima. Why did we see working capital increase so much?
Working capital in the business, there's two kind of main drivers of working capital. The genetics business is, particularly the salmon business, is a long working capital cycle. We invest in building up our biomass of our salmon, which then create the fish eggs over the course of 4 years. So it's a working capital intensive business. And then as we build up new facilities, or in the case of over the last few years, building up Salton. So we had Salton and now we have our new facility in Chile. We invest more money to create a working capital cycle. So there's that. And there's also within our nutrition business, we also have a take or pay contract with our GSL Artemia contract. And there's a working capital investment in that. When the markets are robust and we expect to move back towards that, the rate at which the take or pay contract gets called down, it flows with the rate at which we sell. Over the past sort of 12 to 18 months, with the market struggling in the shrimp industry, we haven't had that same rate. So that's why you're seeing the working capital investment. But that's all working capital investment, which we will expect to unwind as markets recover.
Okay, thank you. One here again, sort of bigger issue, but perhaps you can touch on it. Is your business affected by climate change? And if so, how? I am assuming cooler is better. Perhaps touching here on moving out of going inland.
I think every business on this planet has been and is and will be affected by climate change in so many ways. That's why it's such important that we all, not only Benchmark, but everybody thinks about, how could we reduce the impact of human activity to help out that. In terms of how will that impact us, for instance, will increase temperature in the northern hemisphere impact the salmon farming? Maybe. I'm not too concerned about it in the short run, but over time, if you don't get the handle of this, it will be impacted. Will we be impacted by more storms, more harsh weather as a part of this? Of course. But then again, I think if you look at our activity as a provider of advanced nutrition, genetics, and health, less than other businesses, would there be effects of, could there be created opportunity of increased heat? For instance, could other species be possible to farm? Yes, there could be. So there could be effects of that. In a short run, I'm not concerned so much for us. I'm more concerned about the whole globe, and I'm very glad that I work for a company that has sustainability as a core and has that in their backbone. So we are trying to help out in solving that situation for the globe in total.
And Hannah, on that, there's two things. Like COVID has been, impactful in everybody's lives, but one of the things that we have noted in our business is that with no travel, our CO2 emissions are going down significantly. Yeah. And we want to bring that through through whenever we can meet face to face. We've seen successfully that Trond can and I can run benchmark from a house in Norway and a house in England. And also recently I reviewed a business case proposal for a small expansion. And part of the business case proposal was that it would help us reduce our CO2 emissions for the facility. Yeah. And so, more and more, I think as we evolve as a business, we take it all seriously. It becomes part and parcel as to who we are as responsible operators, which is one of the sort of core tenets that we as Benchmark have. We want to be a responsible operator. We want to provide solutions to an industry. We want to help make the world better.
Well, pandemic's certainly been the mother of invention for those who could rise to the challenge. Final question then, unless we hear of any more from the audience, is just on your register. So could you say something about your relationship with North Atlantic Smaller Companies Investment Trust, and do they have a nominee on your board of directors?
To be honest, I don't have a good answer on that one. Septima, do you have?
They definitely don't have a nominee on our board.
No, they don't have.
And I did check the bios in the annual report briefly to check to see have any of our non-execs got any associations. So unless it's a new event, I do not see that we have any relationship. But if we do, I'll follow it up.
Okay, well, that's all for today. So thank you both very much for the update. Good luck with progressing CleanTreat, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next time.
Thank you.